There are many simple things in the world. Shovels. They are all different. Gardening shovel. Unloading shovel. Children's shovel. But there is also a different shovel. We use it when we come to the position. In short time, it helps us dig a trench which saves us from bullets. If a tank will pass over the trench, there is a high probability that it will not cause any harm to the soldier. We dig in the ground, deeper, and then connect the trenches with our friends to the left. In just a few hours, trenches are all connected. When we do not have an axe, we can use a shovel to cut a loaf of bread. A soldier uses a shovel as a paddle, crossing the wide river under enemy fire. If we run out of ammunition, we will use a shovel again. And then we'll move on. And when we get the order to stop, we'll take a shovel again and build around us an impregnable fortress. This fortress is defended by the Army of Ukraine, our army.
If that's really a thing, and I get authorized to do it once, it's pretty much gonna be me sitting there talking shit, like, constantly.
Freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
I looked my woman in the eye sockets. I told her straight out. I just said it, man. I said it. I said, bitch, I'm the man of the house.
Yeah, you said bitch, though. You called your wife a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
This is a public service announcement from C.T. Fletcher. I will not contribute to the pussification of a nation. Get your punk ass out there and work for it, motherfucker.
Let's roll.
Broadcasting live from the Functional Veteran Center of Excellence on this 28 April in the year of our ICE and DEA busts out west at Fort Carson. Man, woo-woo! How y'all doing today? Broadcasting deep within the basement of the Pentagon, somewhere in the Area 51, maybe somewhere in the Alamo. How about Space Force base out there in Vandenberg, or maybe somewhere in Cheyenne? Maybe we should return Jose from his retirement to bring him back to go report from Cheyenne Mountain from the Stargate. How y'all doing? This is a Monday edition. US Army WTF Moments, WTF Nation Radio. It looks like we're 5 by 5 on All Alive. 2 Facebook pages, 2 YouTube pages, 1 X account at US Army WTF Moments. So, how are you guys doing today? As a matter of fact, how is the 4th Infantry doing today? Sorry. Okay, just to get this out of the way, we were tracking this already, and we wanted to wait until all the media outlets got all their information out, because as soon as this event happened, immediately everyone was posting stuff to the inbox. How come you guys didn't post this yet? How come I said, this is a developing story. This is a developing situation. So why don't we just wait a little bit until we get the information out, and then we can discuss all the details. Then I'll provide you some updates from the W.T.F Nation Jock. And and this is from, what is this from? KKTV. I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and go over that. I'm like freaking getting all these ads out of the way. So I just wanted to make you aware. For those of you that are not tracking, there was a large raid at a underground club. I didn't even know those things existed. Like a rave or something like that. Well, anyways, the DEA Rocky Mountain Division provided video to KKTV. Well, let's just hang on. Let me key this up for you guys. We can all watch and enjoy, and of course, video courtesy of KKTV out there. 2 Facebook pages. What was that? 2 of those gaming tards are still on the main page. What dummy gave them permission? What are you talking about? They broadcasted an hour ago. They're like an hour. They've been on for an hour already. Yeah, 2 Facebook pages. U.S. Army W.T.F bombs, W.T.F. Anyways, so let's I know you guys, stop distracting me. Let's go ahead and take a look on here and see what happens.
Drugs, guns, undocumented immigrants, and active duty military personnel. That's what federal and local authorities say they found after this massive raid at what they're calling an underground illegal nightclub in Colorado Springs early this morning. Good evening. I'm Blake Salmon. Grace Kramer has the night off. Tonight, we're learning more about this operation. It involved hundreds of federal law enforcement agents as well as Colorado Springs Police and El Paso County Sheriff's deputies. They say it all went down right around 3:45 here in the 200th block of South Academy, right by the intersection of Airport. This is just north of the Satellite Hotel. We have team coverage tonight. 11 News reporter Aaron Vitito is at the 11 Alert Desk with reaction from our local agencies and leaders, but we want to start with 11 News reporter Elena Tamish. She joins us live from that scene on Academy. Elena, this evening we're hearing from the DEA.
Yeah, Blake, we are right here outside this building. Take a look, boarded off windows, boarded off doors, and the DEA officials say the raid at this building early this morning involved more than 10 federal agents and more than 300 agents overall. They say this comes after a months-long investigation into drug trafficking, prostitution, and other violent crimes. Now, they say they recovered lots of guns as well as dozens of packets of different drugs. The DEA special agent in charge says there were active duty military members involved in these crimes. They say there were at least a dozen at the club when the raid went down. Some were there as patrons, others as armed security.
We're working with our partners at Army CID on that piece. Obviously, where we are here in the Springs, there's a lot of military bases here, so it's not necessarily surprising, but we're going to take that very seriously.
We reached out to the Army's Criminal Investigation Division, and they say they're aware of the matter and are working with the DEA. They sent us a statement saying, in part, quote, "As this is an ongoing investigation, we are unable to provide additional information at this time. We're still working to find out where those service members were stationed." Now, they say of the 200 people in the club at the time of the raid, more than half were in the country illegally and went into ICE custody. They say we could see more arrests in connection to this raid in the coming days. Blake.
Elena, thank you so much. Now let's turn to 11 News reporter Aaron Vitito, who joins me live from the 11 Alert Desk. Aaron, we're hearing from our local law enforcement and leaders about this evening.
Blake, both Colorado Springs Police and El Paso County deputies were on scene early this morning, and now we're learning more about each agency's respective role in this operation. Starting with Colorado Springs Police Chief Adrian Vasquez, he says CSPD is not authorized to conduct immigration enforcement, but he says in part, quote, "Our participation in this operation was solely to address criminal violations affecting the safety of our community." El Paso County Sheriff Joseph Roybal says his office will continue to work with their federal partners to keep people safe, saying in part, quote, "Criminals have no place in the Pikes Peak region. Let this be a warning. They should go elsewhere." And Colorado Springs Mayor Yemi Immobilade is also reacting. He says he was briefed on the operation before it happened. He thanks all involved, saying in part, quote, "Our residents deserve to live in a city where the rule of law is upheld and where illegal behavior is met with firm and decisive action." And while these agencies are investigating, El Paso County commissioners are calling this an example of upholding public safety, while also touting what they call the Trump administration enabling DEA and ICE to, quote, "do their jobs." And like Elena said, we also know active duty service members were involved in this. So I have a call out to the U.S. Army as well as Fort Carson for more information. Of course, as soon as we get it, we'll pass that along. Blake, back to you.
Aaron, thank you so much. Of course, we'll have more on this coming up on 11 News at 10.
Oh, man. So, allow me to provide you some context. I don't know how the hell the ad changed to like e-cigarettes. That's weird. Anyways, so we have some updates from the WTF Nation jock at the comms desk at the WTF Nation News Center. So here are the deets of the individuals that were detained from the Army. Of those, mostly from the ranks between private first class and staff sergeant, there was one warrant officer and one lieutenant. 17 active duty service members in all, and three dependents. Over 100 illegals, of course, in the club that, like you just saw there. And like the news report said at KK TV, again, video courtesy of that was the this is not over. This is not over. More stuff is happening. So look forward to more arrests. Look forward to more investigations. So that was from the WTF Nation news desk on the numbers there. Again, let me read it again so that way it's not I'm not 17 active duty, 3 dependents, 1 warrant officer, 1 lieutenant, and then the rest mixed bag of private first class through E6 to staff sergeant. So there we go. That's what happened. Now, everyone's like clutching pearls going, "Oh my God." Somebody said, what? Matt says, this was hilarious. I'm just sad I didn't watch it go down. Yeah, exactly. So what did CID? CID said, and that was posted on U.S. Army WTF Moments as well. The Army CID is aware of the matter and is currently conducting a joint investigation with the Drug Enforcement Agency, which is the lead agency, and this is an ongoing investigation. We are unable to provide additional information at this time. So there you go. You got it from us. We confirmed the data from 3 different sources, and so there you go. We won't say from what. Over 100 modifies show up to the race I missed. What? What are you talking about? Lee says, stupid is as stupid does. Now, here's the thing. Oh, my God. Where are my manners? I forgot to say something. We got a guest tonight. We got guests tonight. We have guests tonight. The book, Atlantic Resolve. The War for Estonia. John Pierson and Thomas Newman will be joining us tonight. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear. Oh man, I'm all about that stuff. I'm all about the Tom Clancy-esque type of novels and scenarios and what ifs and all that. It really stimulates the mind, specifically if you've been living or you've been around those area or participated in such exercises or events, and you're like, oh wow, so cool. There you go. But anyways, can't wait for them. They're going to be joining us at the top of the hour after the break. So, so there's a lot of things on my mind when it comes to soldiers. Why would soldiers get involved in stuff like that? Why would soldiers get involved with those types of activities? What would compel a soldier to make you just want to, why would you want to do it? What's stopping soldiers? Well, what's stopping soldiers from what is not? Why are soldiers? I said what is not stopping soldiers? I should have said. But here's my thing. Have you seen the timeline at U.S. Army WTF Moments or Army Reddit or hots and cots. Why would soldiers do something like this? Why would soldiers participate in gang-like activity or work in a underground club like that? There you go, Patrick. Mwah. There you go, Patrick. You just called it. What do they say about idle hands? When you start cutting facilities, and you start cutting MWR, when you start cutting, I don't know, if you have soldiers that get their DFACs closed, if you have soldiers that are literally going to these new media pages like Army Reddit, W.T.F Moments, and Hots and Cots to get their information or get assistance, perhaps there's something there. So were they working there or they were hanging out? Both were hanging out. Well, both scenarios played. Some were hanging out, some were working there. So again, what would make soldiers want to do that? I'm just saying, seeing the same shit that we saw back in the late 80s, early 90s. You stop fucking taking care of the soldiers, you start cutting programs. And there you go, man. You're gonna have events like this. There was more pics that are being out there. There was one pic right here. Of the raid that was a little bit more raw information there. You know, you can see the guy with the head right there up against the pillar, up against, wearing his body armor and stuff, wearing some sort of security vest. That's up there as well. These are several pictures that we got from different followers, and everyone's linking us, trying to link us into these Facebook groups, and we're like, oh, okay, cool, that's interesting. So if they were hanging out there, they have plausible deniability, they could get off the hook and all that. If there was working there, they're fucked. Exactly that, PIQ. That's a good point. I have attended certain establishments that I thought were legit. It's not my fault the business doesn't keep their paperwork straight. It doesn't matter. Now, if there are drugs or stuff being used there, consumed in the premises, you kind of like on a self-report type thing, right? You kind of got to get out of there because you're like, oh shit, there's some activities going on in here. They deported somebody's future Latina wife. Yeah, I'm just gonna say, you're probably correct on all those counts, guys. Again, I think it's funny. I just think it's funny that soldiers will be caught up in an ICE raid. So over the weekend, phones were ringing and messages were going off. Hey, do you know about this? Hey, you know about this? Hey, just saw it on the news myself. And then the influx of pictures and stuff like that came into the mix, and I'm just like, wow, all right, there you go. Pictures sent to us that were unredacted, pictures that were sent to us redacted. It's all over the web. Everyone's out there. Deport the troops. Yeah. What if soldiers are there illegal? Ooh, I think, and this is a situation. How can I? Boy, you guys are dropping some good zingers there. How can I get my tamales now? You're so mean, Musa. You're so mean. So again, just if this club had been on the blacklist, this probably could have been prevented. True, could have been. Could have been it all. Another image that we got that was in the inbox. Look, if you're gonna pull some security shit or do some stuff, don't do it in your fucking TA-50, all right? So there's another image that we got as well. Actually, these are circulating around already on the web, so it's not like I'm revealing something new or something like that. So if you're gonna be dumb enough to do it in your TA-50, at least buy some shit. I mean, at least this guy's masked, whoever he is. But like I said, like you saw in the video, they busted down that window and they all came scurrying out. Bad idea, huh? Right, exactly that, PIQ. Oh my. Let's go through some other ones in here too. There you go, man. Here's another one here. This is like, I will say the WTF Nation provides. There you go. There's another one here. Where am I going to get used tires from? Who's going to mow my lawn? God, you guys are dicks. Who's going to mow my lawn? Who's going to do my roof? You guys are dicks. That's not cool. You guys make it sound like only Latinos and illegals do that. You trying to say that all Latinos are legal? Or illegal, I should say. So the secret club, yeah, exactly that. The map showed you earlier, whatever that you saw was off the highway right there, I guess. But yeah. More videos, more images, of course. Hang on, because I don't want to bust the that person's Vamos mantequilla. There's another one here. This might get us zucked. Who knows? This one right here. There was a physical altercation that was happening in the venue. So I'm just gonna put this up right quick because I know Zuckerberg on live feeds and stuff like that. They'll take it down, take our shit down. So there you go. There's one image. So if you were paying attention, don't worry, you can probably catch it on the recording. But yeah, there you go. So there's the when the cops showed up at the door, most of the drugs hit the floor. So that was what the DEA said. The spokesperson there. But yeah. So anyways, pretty live out west, right? We're out in Colorado Springs. Where's this club? I don't know where this fucking club is at, man. I don't know. I do know that we got a lot of the memes are fucking hilarious that we got, and we don't know. Do we post the memes or not? Do we make fun of Colorado? Oh man, we got a ton of memes in there. I might have to send them to U.S. Army memes, so that way we can. Okay, you know I come from a Latino family, so I just had a family member text me, "Who is going to do my car's body work when I get sideswiped the next time?" Oh man, smack dab in the middle of Colorado Springs. Yeah, we pulled up the map. The map was shown, but some of the memes that we've been getting are fucking hilarious. I might have to send them over to post the memes. All right, cool. Hey, Army, U.S. Army memes. I know you're the memer there. Let me see. Let's find another one here. And this was sent to us from the 719 Can't Drive No Rules Edition page. I guess it's the page that makes fun of all the drivers there in Colorado Springs. So everyone's dragging on this stuff right here. So one of the ones we got is Governor Jared Polis, I guess, is the Colorado. I thought I was the boss. You thought I was the boss of the club? Come on, man. No way, dude. I don't know anything about running a club at all. I go to clubs, but I don't know how to run a club. So, yeah. See what's another one meme in here. Let's see which one's going to get us busted out here. What was the other one that someone does? This is the one of the Hulkster. I'm telling you, brother, stop scrolling. Are you a U.S. citizen? There we go. Hell yeah, brother. Oh, man, this is fucking classic. I love it. You guys are awesome. The W.T.F Nation delivers out in Colorado. It was awesome. I love it. Let's see. What was the other one that we got in here? What was the other one we have? I know there's people throwing the Nazi stuff in here too, saying that we're a bunch of Nazis for allowing this to happen. Blah blah. Which kind of like, whatever. There's some pretty fucking heinous acts that you have to commit before I even consider you being that level of Nazi. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about, trucking skinheads like I used to back in the day. Sorry for my family members that'll listen. I always wondered, what were you doing out in the pier? Anyways, Human's not fucking around. Here's a good one. Oh, damn. This is a good, hey, Army memes. You in the chat, man? I saw you in the chats earlier, so I'm gonna have to send you some of these. This is a good one. Hey, Pip, this is almost like the ones that we did when we used to game on GTA. Look at this one. I don't know what the chuck wagon is, so that must be look. I love this. This is classic. Awesome. This is just beautiful. Hang on, let me see what other memes that we can grab out of here. Again, I don't want to reveal some of the names here. That way, there's another one here. Grand Theft Auto Pueblo. Hang on, let me check this one out. Oh shit! They even they just like the other one. Like they actually put the. There we go. Oh man, 719's getting all the blast today. That's classic. I like this one. See now after the show, I'm probably gonna have to hit up some of the old school WTF game people to jump on. We can do some GTA. Yeah, I've seen that. See, we keep getting the other ones. I'm just going through all the memes because there was a very, very repetitive meme display that we got. Are you going to any Cinco de Mayo events? Ooh, I don't know. That's a good idea. Cinco de Mayo is coming up. Cinco de Mayo though is on I think it's on one of the. It's Cinco de Mayo is on the. Now again, I have Cinco de Mayo next week. It's on a Monday. So, give you more juicy details. Those are the details that I have so far. And of course, we will update the WTF Nation on all this. Yeah. So this is this is classic. I love it. I love it. Oh, hang on. There we go. Hang on. Got some more details of the club. Oh, we got. Oh, whoa, man! I love. Oh, here we go. Got more stuff. Mexican Monday edition. Hey, you all know that I've done Cinco de Mayo shows before, and when I've done it in sombreros. And I drank. You got my next wife interested. Oh man, last Cinco de Mayo show that we had, I sang along, did some mariachi stuff, wore my sombrero, talked about the Battle of Puebla and why it was significant to us and why we should celebrate it. That's why every time everyone's like, oh, Cinco de Mayo, so stupid, blah, blah, blah. But then you see people walking around toasting it up. Toast it up! Cinco de Mayo, it's a celebration, bitches. It's for everybody. Cinco de Mayo is to be celebrated by all Americans. If you know its historical significance, then you'll know why. So then usually when I explain it to people, the why, they get a little bit mad when I say that. So all right, let's look at some Hey, what's up, Alicia? Okay, here we go. There we go. Pew, pew. Let's look at some of these detainment pictures. These are all sent to me again by the WTF Nation. You guys are awesome. Here we go. Oh shit! Look at that! It looks like I got busted. Look at that one. Yep. Mm-hmm. Stolen cultural appropriation. No, Cinco de Mayo is not stolen appropriation. It is not stolen. The Battle of Puebla, again, I will explain it to you again. I always do this every Cinco de Mayo event that I get there. We'll be cracking a couple of Tecates, enjoying ourselves in Modelos, shooting up a couple of tequila shots. Hell, I might do the Monday edition from my kitchen. Showing you guys how to make some tacos or make you some breakfast or something like that. Do some beans and rice. We'll show you how to do some beans and rice. I don't know how about that. Exactly. Do it from a taco truck. So, okay. So there's one right here. And there you go. Look at that. I I don't know what was going on with the pants down thing right there or something like that. Must have been a, woo. Looks like Mexican Diddy. Here's another shot right here. No, they were hemming up everybody. Yeah. Oh, make some flan. Oh. Make some flan. I'll have to see if I can get the rig down there to do it, do a recording, and then post-record it to see if I can make some flan. One time I did a cooking show, but I played it some music and it got blocked and got taken off. So I was like, what the hell? How come? So I might have to do another one like that. But we'll see. Well, I'll see it tomorrow is like Monday, so again, I might have to freaking. We'll see. We'll just see. You sure this was a gangster club and not a not a gay bar? This is a Mexican potato. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man, at least this is totally throwing out the freaking, just totally throwing it out there. I'm going to start a petition today for the Germans. She don't look happy. All those flexi cuffs on the ground, too. Look at that. Everyone's all dressed up and nowhere to go. You guys are savage. I'm loving the comments in this one. All right, so let's see. Let's look at the locale here. Germans are part Neanderthal. Yeah, you ain't lying. Wait a minute. I'm sort of kind of German. I'm half German. What's up with that? I got German in me. What you talking about? Let's see. So it was on 296 South Academy Boulevard. So yeah, somehow these guys are going, I can save her. Exactly. What's up with the cotton candy here? Okay, so there you go. So here is the point there. So if you are from that area, there we go. That point was hang on. How rude. Let me switch the lens here. Here we go. I'm Pennsylvania Dutch to try me with my German crap. Whoa, hey, oh, is my illustrious Goomba friend there from the sports bar, the coach. Hey, oh, as he says. So there it is. From that what was that right there? A little spot right there. Pueblo Viejo. Let's see. That's where it was at, off of Airport Road. So that's where it was at. Hot Cuts. Academy Shopping. Give the people what they want. It was right next to a Mexican restaurant. So there it is. That's the status. We're going to get more details, of course, as the lists increase. Auto parts out beside it, definitely Mexican. Well, look at that. There's a Mexican food place right there, too. Pueblo Viejo. So there we go. So that's the details right now we have so far. So make sure, you pay attention and share, like, and follow. Go on US Army W.T.F moments, and we'll provide you some ideas. Shout out to the 719 Can't Drive No Rules Edition page for providing us all the deets. Ramos, tell your WTF dudes all their shows are boring except for Radar and you. Whoa! Hey, whoa! Damn, Alicia, why are you throwing all that hate? Man. Get your tacos and other things. Yeah. So again, shout out to 719 Can't Drive No Rules Edition Facebook group. You can jump on there and see all the memes. That's the name of it. It's a public group, so you can go ahead and check it out. That's just pretty cool. Appreciate the 719 fans. Pretty cool. I like that. Those are some good memes. See what other memes we have in here we can pull up. I'm just going to check the inbox one more time to see if we have any firings. Scorpion says, just wanted to stop by and said, I'm about to join the military right now. Whoa, well, congrats. Congrats there, Scorpion. Thank you for jumping on and joining the team. What made you want to join? Was it current events? Was it current administration? Was it someone's coming out there with fire? Yeah. I am full of rage and learn from the core. Oh yeah, Alicia, man, I forgot your core. Your core. Tagged you in a meme. So hang on. Oh, we got more. Oh man. Ay, Dios mío, tenemos más. Anda pues. Espérate. Oh man. Okay. Well, you guys want more deets? Okay, I got some more deets. Here we go. There's more pictures. Marines always wanted to serve. Higher calling. Ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that, Scorpion. Higher calling. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's that higher calling that you can't explain, right, brother or sister? I don't want to sit there and I don't want to wait. What the hell? Look at this picture. They got snow. Is it freaking snowing out there? Looks like a bus. It looks like an INS bus. Current dependa. It was the pay. Married into the Army. Current dependa. Okay, well, hey, nothing wrong with that. Look at that. Snow. Kind of ironic, right? Snow underneath the feet of a DEA agent while they're putting people on a different drug bus. Get it? Har. But yeah, look at that, man. Mas por favor. Everyone's jumping into the spirits. Don't forget to enjoy our Cinco de Mayo show. Okay, so they ran out of sources are saying. I'm getting live sources, by the way, live source talk. The sources are saying that look at this. Sources are saying that there were so many arrested that they ran out of zip ties and used rope ties. Look at that. Got everybody in there. That was a lot of people, dude. I couldn't even imagine how many people, man. Let's see what else. Again, don't want to bust this. So yes, it was confirmed. It's an immigration bus. There you go. That was confirmed. Those images coming out from the seeds. So again, also want to Also want to shout out to KKTV for all that video. We're gonna tag them after the show. Video courtesy of man, this is awesome. Hang on, some more stuff. Yeah, Texas style robes. Yeah. Where did you get that? The Ranger tab? Ah, okay. Where did we get the Ranger? Okay, well, let me find out here. Okay, so everyone's asking what so women can be Rangers now, right? They can go to Ranger school and graduate, yada yada. And we posted a glittery Slay Queen, hey, pink Ranger tab. I think it's kind of cool. Anyway, so yeah, it's posted up. Where can we get that? I don't know. You tell us. So that's the I know it's funny when you guys comment and talk to each other in other comments and other chats asking questions about that, and you go, what that? It's really kind of cool to see the feedback of you guys going in there and shooting the breeze. So it's pretty cool. But anyways, yeah. So that was posted on today's on the timeline today. I think it was posted today, yeah. But anyhow. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a break while we get our guests set up, and also we can get a lot of the technical sound and stuff. That way I can hit the head myself, latrine, porta potty, whatever you want to call it. We're going to have our guests coming on in a minute, and I'm excited because, like I said, I like the Tom Clancy-esque kind of writing, and these two gentlemen here that are going to be coming up, John Pierson and Tom Newman. I don't know. Some people don't like to be called Tom, so I'll have to ask them if I can call him Tom from Thomas. But Thomas Newman and John Pierson, the authors of Atlantic Resolve, The War for Estonia. Dude, I'm hyped. Usually books like that are the sleepers that end up being pretty good Netflix movies, so or actual movies. So can't wait. So we're gonna go ahead and take a break right quick, and we'll be right back. So everyone, hit the head. Hit the latrine. Smoke if you got them. Shots.
WTF Nation Radio. WTF Nation Radio.
Take it from me, Ice. You can't just float around space not caring about stuff forever.
The voice of U.S. Army. WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Shit in the bag, Pogue.
Soldier's tale of wild misdeeds, from the chow hall to the PT grind. You won't believe the things you'll find. Drill sergeant's rage, a fiery storm. Private tension far from the norm, in the shadows where the secrets lie. Army W.T.F, you can't deny. Army W, the stories unfold. In the heart of the chaos, the truth is told. From the field to the base, the legends grow. Stuck in the mud so deep, and then there ain't no time for sleep. It moves straight like gold in hand. The strangest sights in this foreign land. Drill sergeant's rage, a fiery storm. Private antics far from the norm, in the shadows where the secrets lie. Army W.T.F, you can't deny. Army W, the stories unfold. In the heart of the chaos, the truth is told. From the field to the base, the legends grow. Army W, the force, the madness we know. Humvee stuck in the mud so deep, a minute ain't no time for sleep. It moves straight like gold in hand. The strangest sights in this foreign land. Drill sergeant's rage, a fiery storm. Private antics far from the norm, in the shadows where the secrets lie. Army W.T.F, you can't deny. Army W, the stories unfold. In the heart of the chaos, the truth is told. From the field to the base, the legends grow. Army W, the force, the madness we know. In the ranks where the wild things roam, every soldier's got a tale of their own. From the absurd to the downright strange. Army W, the force, it never will change. So raise a glass to the tales untold. In the Army's world where the brave and bold live the moments that make us say, Army W, the force, every single day.
I am here determined to stop this future atrocity.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
The voice of U.S. Army, WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Everything stated on WTF Nation Radio is to be considered the opinion of the person that stated it, and not an official representation of WTF Nation Radio or U.S. Army WTF Moments.
Price does not include tax, title, or license. Some assembly required. Each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
please enjoy the show. Shots.
Oh man, had a pretty good conversation on the break, so I figured we'd bring it out to you guys. I got Tom and John, authors of Atlantic Resolve, War For Estonia. Can't wait to get this going. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing good, Ice.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is some good stuff. We were talking in the green room setting right now in the break. For me, this piqued my interest due to the fact that it's got a Tom Clancy-esque scenario-driven event, and that to me is always fascinates me, anyways. So kick it off. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Right, I'll go first. So my name's John Pierson. I was a logistics officer, so I did most of my all my lieutenant time was in Fort Riley with the 1st Infantry Division. And then I was deployed to EUCOM for about 13 months in Poland. That was in response to when the Ukraine war kicked off in 2022. Then after, I was able to go to Captain's Career Course and go to Fort Eustis, which is interesting, kind of going from Kansas, the most landlocked place in the world, to dealing with Army watercraft. And then after Fort Eustis, I got out of the Army after about 6 years of service and now work at the DoD as a federal civilian.
Awesome. All right, you're up next.
So, name's Tom Newman. I enlisted in the Army National Guard in the state of New York in 2014 as an 11 Bravo. I drilled as just a regular infantryman for about 3.5 years, and then I got a conditional release from the New York Army National Guard to go compete for an active duty commission through ROTC. I got that active duty commission. I also went to Fort Riley as my first active duty station, also 1st Infantry Division. I was in the Aviation Brigade. I did my first EUCOM rotation in 2019 with that Aviation Brigade in the support battalion. Came back from that at the end of 2019 and then deployed a second time to EUCOM in 2021 before they started sticking lieutenants in TRADOC. And so I got an RFO to go to Fort Leonard Wood. Stayed there for a year, went to Captain's Career Course, then also went to Fort Eustis. I got out of the Army in August of 2024. I commissioned as a logistics officer, by the way. And now I do logistics for the Department of the Navy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's so awesome, man. So we got heavy aviation background. Oh, this is cool. So how did you guys decide to kick up a book like this?
John,
I'll go first.
Because everyone has an origin story. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, so one, like, we're both big history nerds. Like I grew up. My dad was a history teacher, so like a lot of even like why I ended up joining the Army was because I just kind of grew up reading and watching, like as you said, like Tom Clancy and everything. Mm-hmm. And kind of the reason we wanted to write this is one, like we felt like we have the experience, and we know there's a ton of kind of like Cold War gone hot scenarios. There's a market for this, but we kind of wanted to focus more on like a modern day scenario, which there still are some, but what we found is a lot of the modern day scenarios, they go very much into like, the special forces and the commandos or like these crazy cyber wars. We're like, why don't we just take like the most, first ID, just a very normal armor brigade combat team. We put them in like a very normal European rotation, which, we all know and are experienced with. And it's just like that. Even though it's a European rotation, you still, for whatever reason, end up working 17 hours a day because you're doing all the, the rail operations and all that stuff. So like, it's tough, but you're comfortable because you don't really think it's going to happen. And like part of the idea of the book is, there is a reason we're over there. With the whole deterrence mission. The idea is, all right, you take this kind of normal rotation, you take these just normal average soldiers in 1st Infantry Division, and then suddenly the rotation just very quickly turns into LESCO, and it turns into you have to kind of put everything that you learned to test. And we wanted to write something that was realistic, but also showed that it's not going to be like we're going to be these like precise, perfect killing machines. It's going to be, logistics is going to be tough. SOPs aren't going to be developed. There's going to be all these issues and problems. And, a lot of the Russians, they're going to have experience because they've been fighting their own war for several years. So it was going to kind of look at both the vulnerabilities of, the United States and NATO and some of the difficulties we'd have in responding. And then also just trying to give people more of a clue of, how it's like to, live as a soldier. So yes, we do talk a lot about the technical stuff, but we really wanted to get in kind of you're still doing the layouts. You're still doing a lot of those bland things that are important. You're going to staff meetings and having to do these pretty monotonous reports. We wanted to really empathize the realism and the staff processes and just, what it's like and how it would be like to actually fight the war. Because, any of these types of things, it's not just going to be like a special forces operator in the field. It's going to be a lot of painful staff work. And
yeah, well, no, I mean, it's kind of funny because one of Tom Clancy's books that turned into a game, Ghost Recon, is what created that same scenario. SF guys going out doing some training with the Georgians, and then the Russians invade and enter into Tbilisi, and so it kind of brings that same thing. But I'm like you said, I'm glad to see that we're seeing how do I say this? A big army, a regular army, because you're not hearing about these super secret insertions or working with whoever. You're actually guys doing a layout, and all of a sudden stuff kicks off. So what was the reason why you decided to go with processes though? I mean, that's a curious one right there.
Sorry, what was that process?
The staff processes, I should say. What was the reason why?
So, I mean, the bulk of our time, I did some enlisted time in the National Guard, but the bulk of our time is we were, either a PL, Company XO, staff officers. And so we give you two basic windows into the actual brigade combat team that you're following. We give you an E4 perspective, and then we give you, it's centered around the brigade commander, but it's really the staff that you're getting a window into. And so those are those are just the two ways that we decided to tell the story. So the story of the brigade combat team, you're getting it's centered around the E4, but it's really his team leader and two other soldiers. And then the brigade commander and centered on his staff. So the log syncs, an interesting, something we imagined multiple times is what does the first command and staff meeting look like after all right, now it's real. Now you're not just on a Yukon rotation anymore. Now you're in large scale combat operations. Is the S1 still going to brief PCS awards? Is that still, what does this look like? And there's no, it's not like they got a text on that day of so that was another question we answered from the E4 perspective of initially when it doesn't seem super real, they get told to turn in their phones. And so people are like, I don't know, man, I kept my phone on me through NTC and no one caught me. So I'm going to keep my phone on me. I'm not, no, this isn't real yet. I know the Russians are doing their FTX over there, but I'm not turning in my phone. And then it really happens. And it's oh man, some people actually kept their phones. This might be a real problem. How are we going to get, we need people to turn in their phones.
Right.
So
just real quick, I put the link to your book that's got the sample and the Amazon click there inside the chats, because I wanted the audience, and I'm glad you brought that up. You've laid out already, and I mean, it's one thing. I don't really think that you're worried about spoilers if you put a sample in there, because that's usually kind of like a movie teaser. But you go through the whole I mean, my favorite, Specialist Wojak. Yeah. I mean, the comment that got me laughing was Chapter 7, Specialist Wojak, shit just got real.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So how were you guys able to war game that? How are you guys able to war game the S1 isn't going to do this? How are we shifting from the asymmetric battlefield that we're used to LISCO?
So it really was just a matter. I mean, it still is. It's a matter of imagination. We've got a number of bits of feedback from people who are like, well, I don't think that, someone would have done the something. Is maybe you're right. I don't know. It's really, so we were in the same, our last unit that we were in together. We actually worked in an S3 shop together for the better part of 2 years. And so it really is just I'm imagining that S1 and how they would react if this, and then, you're imagining that brigade commander asking, getting his or her daily brief. and then the questions that they would ask if it all of a sudden became real. So the wargaming is really just, it's just thinking about the whatever scenarios you've experienced in your Army career, and then being like, well, how would it go if like we were a lot more concerned about maintenance and maybe a little bit less concerned about PCS awards, but like the slide format didn't update magically. Like it's still the slide format that we're briefing.
Are you? Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Oh, and then also like we also look not at the staff processes, but also like the staff doesn't just do staff process. They have to set up the talk. There's all these things that go into it. So like for example, we have a scene where like they get hit by some Russian artillery, so there's UXOs everywhere. It's like you're not going to be able to call EOD to like nicely pick it up in the situation because they're going to be extremely busy. So we're just like, what would Sergeant Major do? And part of the process, Sergeant Major's like, all right, like we're going to have to get some reflective tape or something and like mark off these areas and just tell everyone like don't go there. And one of our biggest compliments is we had a Sergeant Major proofread the book, and he was like, no, that's exactly what I do. So we're like, we're gonna name the character after you. Then
this book is Sergeant Major approved. You should know.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you have it? Okay, so you had a Sergeant Major. Did you have a big Sarge approved? That's the bigger one. The big Sarge, or
we had a number of people kind of all up and down the like a command structure.
Right.
This reads through.
What made you decide to pick Estonia? What was the reason why? And Atlantic Resolve to begin with.
So I think Estonia is probably the country that would be the most vulnerable to Russian aggression. I mean, the reason we went with EUCOM is stick with what we know, because it's like we try to like of course we try to write about like the air war and stuff, but we're obviously going to be a little bit less specific because we don't want to look foolish because I don't exactly know the intricacies of a seed campaign. I just know that it needs to happen.
Right.
So for us, we're like, okay, we kind of know how the logistics and everything is laid out in Europe. And how we were going to get there. And the logic was for kind of what the book is we wanted to give the Russians like a realistic, chance of victory and like what they would think. And Estonia kind of is consistently I've seen is like the most vulnerable NATO state. And I know there's the standard, they're going to go through the Suwalki Gap, cut off all 3 Baltic states. But we wanted the Russians to be a little bit less ambitious, because a big part of the book is that initial phase where the Russians are like, look, because we have the Russian president as one of the perspectives, and the Russians are like, look, when we went into Ukraine, we went in guns a-blazing, and that that really reawakened that Ukrainian patriotism. They fought back hard. So maybe we're going to look at like how we did it in Crimea, where we're just going to kind of walk in. Estonia is small enough that we can do that, and we're just going to kind of dare NATO to because it's going to put that pressure on you. It's like, are you really going to do it over this country of 1 million people? Are you really willing to risk nuclear war, World War III, whatever? They're gonna put that pressure, and we think that Estonia is vulnerable because they have the ability to make those excuses like, there's a big Russian minority, we can walk in, and then it's a very clear road to Tallinn, and the Russians' hope is that they're gonna tell the American president like, look, those 2 brigades you got, they're not gonna be able to stop what's coming, so why don't we'll let you save face. You can evac them. You just let us have Estonia. It'll be quick. It'll be bloodless. We're not going to, fire a bunch of missiles. We're just going to kind of have them say like, look, it's futile. We're a country of 140 million. All your allies just abandon you. You're alone. So like, why drag this out? Why, the result's inevitable.
So the timeline then goes from present time all the way into what, 10, 15 years into the future, just about?
Goes to 2033 is when when we have this taking place. So I mean, we going back to the war game scenario, like we talked about with the staff meetings, we really did try to red team this from the Russian perspective and say, what would be kind of the biggest nightmare scenario that the red team could throw into NATO's lap, and then we'll kind of just imagine how we think it would play out from there. So hopefully this doesn't fall into the enemy's hands. But.
It's kind of cool in a way that you're. Just because anytime there's a book that has to do with Russian strategy or something like that, our adversaries pick it up to read it as well. So did you have a little bit of like messaging in here that says, hey, look, we also red teamed your ass, so you guys don't even try it? And did you put any underlying themes like that, or no?
Well, hopefully, if they read this book, they'll go like, hey, this seemed like, they'll in maybe about the first half, they'll be like, this seems to be, this is a good idea. We should try this out.
Yeah.
And then maybe by the second half, it's like, okay, it's a fully fleshed out scenario. We basically got to war game this. These Tom Newman and John Pierson war gamed this for us. Yeah, I don't know. Spoiler alert. Doesn't.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Russian doesn't win.
Good guys do prevail in the end, although we do. It is, it still is. You see the the final chapter is called The Setback and Nothing More. Like, we're not going to pretend that some small engagement one time would, if the Ukraine war doesn't put an end to Russian ambition in Eastern Europe, then neither will a limited engagement in the borderlands of Estonia. But yeah, I mean, we did red team it thoroughly from them, and if they read it, they can thank us for our advice.
Yeah.
And from that red team perspective, we're just very determined, one, to not make the Americans out to be like these super soldiers. Sometimes you read these books where like a private bayonets a Russian colonel and they're cracking jokes and it's like really fun, or even the enemy, like they start off really competent and then like it's like the typical story, right, where like the bad guy wins at first. Like we kind of want this to be a back and forth thing where both sides are adapting. Like the Russians, like they get punched by U.S. air for the first time and they're like, okay, like breathe. All right, they didn't. We still got air defense. We can still bring up. We still have the better fires. Like let's see how their sortie rate does after another week of this, because it's just so it's hard enough to maintain like trucks from the 1980s. Imagine maintaining aircraft. Like all these things are just so difficult. So our goal really was to create that dynamic of like, it's not just the bad guys get the it's a constant back and forth struggle where both sides have these tactical successes and then also tactical setbacks.
Reading the preview, you can see the tension build up. Like you can kind of see something is about ready to kind of okay, what's going just by the timeline that you posted. That's inside the summary real quick. It to me, I'm like, this is going to be good. I mean, this is again, being from going through exercises from the European background myself. I like a good exercise. I like a good red team. I like a good scenario. And all the pucksters when you're out at Building 100 out in Homefells doing these crazy scenarios. You're like, ain't no way that's going to happen. And the next thing you read the news, I'm like, holy shit, they're really doing it. Did you guys get involved? Did you guys involve any Estonians or any individuals that worked with, how do I say this, that were former Russian advisors or something like that? And I'm not talking about like Russians, like somebody from UCOM, somebody that some Russian analysts from UCOM to kind of flesh out some of because there's right now the one that came out, that kicked out to be the most, was the death of a Russian official, and so that was like, oh, okay, what was their reaction to it?
Because a big part of that timeline too is just to give we're pretty we follow the Ukraine war very closely, and we're like every day we're looking for updates, things, but we understand that not everyone does. So a big part of the goal is to show the build up. And then once we get to 2025, 2026, that's when it kind of becomes more fiction as we start to speculate like what could happen. And part of the reason we have like Putin get killed off is we didn't want to include like a real life figure, because we're like, I don't want to speak for I'm not like a complete Kremlin whisperer, so like exactly. I'm gonna give a guy who like realist. Our idea was we made up some like Russian like defense contract company owner who basically has kind of the goods on everyone, because he was the one responsible for like kind of supplying the army during Ukraine, and he picks and chooses favorites. So like he was able to kind of build his power base, and then even he was he's pretty reluctant to criticize Putin or anything like that, and he kind of just rises up. But kind of to your question is, unfortunately, we don't know any Russians. The closest we have is we have a friend from Ukraine that we play some video games with that are like kind of interesting video games. They're like very like division based, where you get to like kind of control division and maneuver them around.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, and I was lucky in that I did get to do a couple train exercises with both Estonian and Lithuanian troops. Okay. So like it helps us when we have the Lithuanian brigade. Like, I call them Iron Wolf because that's like their name. I'm like, there's just no way I would have known that if I wasn't trained with Lithuanians. But we didn't always have like an expert whispering in our ears, but we did, did as much research as we could.
Now, when it came to actually like, there's a few parts of the book there's a lot of parts of the book where you get Russian leadership dialogue. I think the lowest level we have in Russian leadership is a colonel. And then it goes, it's predominantly along the president lines. And then we also have some interactions with some Russian soldiers from other perspectives. Those things they're not informed by personal interactions, but you can go online and you can watch Telegram videos of Russian soldiers. It's a very common thing in the Russian military culture is you make a video and you appeal to whoever the president. Not videos, obviously, but even back in the Tsar days, it was a very common thing for Russian soldiers write appeals to the Tsar directly. You'd skip all the leadership,
right?
And you'd make an appeal that implies that the Tsar or the president, whoever it is, they're kind of this like all perfect being, and it's only the local leadership that has created this bad situation for them. There's tons of those all over the internet from the Ukraine war. And John especially has watched tons of hours of those. And he used that knowledge to kind of like, we have some things like that in the book. We have some Russian dialogue, and the phrases they use, the terminology they use, like that's, it's all pulled right from that kind of stuff. The same, like a phrase, the reality on the ground. Russian leadership loves using the term the reality on the ground whenever they're going to negotiate about, what a ceasefire is going to look like or something like that. So it's not informed by our personal knowledge or our personal relationships with any Russian leadership or anything like that, but certainly all the content that they've put out onto the internet has made its way into our book.
No, they've really, in a way, they've kind of, how do I say that? They've kind of put it out. Some of it is purposeful, some of it's not. Some of it you could see they're bickering back and forth, and it's some of it is like, oh man, those guys look like they're sucking. It's like, oh man, they are sucking. Oh shit, they're dead. You're kind of like, I don't want to get to the, everyone talks about the humanization of our adversaries, but I kind of don't, how do I say this? I don't, in the event right now, currently with what's going on with Ukraine, I don't care. If they're going through some shit, I personally feel that our policy of letting them, letting Ukraine, destroy them or do a massive attrition of their military, to me I think is good for us. That's just me. And so to kind of like see them, God damn, dude, you guys are sucking. Yep. All right. Sucks to be you type of thing. I don't want to throw that NCO side of me out of it. Oh, sucks to be you. Maybe you shouldn't have, invaded Ukraine. Is there any of that dialogue and bickering inside the novel as well?
Yeah, I mean, so like one of the Telegram videos I literally took, like, they were complaining about Ukrainian drones. I'm like, okay, we're gonna place like drones with like American airstrikes because that's something that they haven't really faced.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like those complaints, but like kind of for the moralization of the Russians, like we do show like the Russian soldiers, they're not like they're not like these like crazy sadistic like monsters who just want to like conquer. Like we do show some of the soldiers' perspectives and even the officers' perspectives. But we also do kind of want to show is I think especially with the the Ukraine war, there's this like human desire to make every conflict like, oh, there has to be shades of gray because it's like black and white, that's childish, and there has to be this complex reason that Putin's invading Ukraine, or there has to be this really complicated reason that they're invading Estonia. It's like sometimes it's like a Disney movie, there's just an evil witch who's just jealous that you're prettier than her and she's just gonna attack you, and it's similar with our logic with Russia in this book. Is they're like look, they have clear goals, they want to they feel that their position in the world is lessened since 1989, and they want to kind of regain control of their sphere of influence, and they see Estonia as just an easy target for that, and they see the chance for like a bloodless victory, and that won't that they've learned their lessons from Ukraine, so they're going to try a different approach, and that they do have these kind of their historical behavior kind of indicates that they're not done expanding.
Yeah, I was about to say, is there references going, man, we shouldn't, this is what happens when we, like, if there's, how you always talk about, well, we didn't do this in Afghanistan from an Iraq veteran point of view, you know what I mean? So I'm wondering is that type of dialogue in there as well? Is that kind of some self-reflection?
There is some of that. So there's some dialogue between Russian officers where they're talking about like we did X in Ukraine, or especially when they compare it to Crimea, because they're definitely going for a Crimea style victory in their initial plans. And then when that becomes not the case, then you have some dialogue of like, it's not happening. Like we're not, it's like we're facing an enemy now that has different capabilities than what we were used to in Ukraine. Maybe we should or shouldn't do this. Mm-hmm. And you kind of get a little bit of back and forth between Russian officers. But there's definitely some dialogue like that in there.
Has anybody come out and said, like, from a senior, without, I mean, and you don't have to give names or anything like that, but has anybody come out from senior leadership, Army leadership, or from UCOM, or from any of the exercise centers saying, yeah, this is I like this. I mean, you guys are already getting some good ratings on it already. So I'm like, and
we've had a few people who I don't think they're very senior, but they've definitely been like, whether they've just gone through captain's career course or something like that. They're like, wow, this should be. I think we've had an 11 Alpha, so an infantry officer, respond to us and be like, wow, this is like, I want this to be in my captain's career course. We've had a few logistics officers say the same thing. One E7 was just like, wow, yeah, I want this. Like this, I'm having this in my next NCO PD. Just to bring it back to the previous question, just for a moment. One of the questions we were afraid that we would get when we were writing this was we were afraid that we would get people being like, why are you having, like, what's the motive behind Russia doing this? We laid out the motives as, like what John mentioned before, just like they feel like their position in the world's been diminished since 1989. And we actually haven't gotten any of those questions of like, why are you having the Russians do this? But when we were, wargaming that question between ourselves when we were writing this, we were thinking like, I don't know, ask them. Why did they why did they go into Ukraine? Why did
exactly?
I don't know. Why do they do this? Like
Why,
we're doing our best to put ourselves in their shoes and empathize with what they're doing. But
now, is there any other, aside from the 1 brigade from the 1st Infantry Division, is there any other outer attachment supports or augments that you have with you as far as other forces?
Oh we definitely So we have so I mean there's I think we have it as 2nd Brigade 2nd Brigade 1st ID, right? That's the main.
Mm-hmm.
John,
yeah, because they were, normally you rotate, but they get stopped mid, like,
Right.
hey, like you think you're going home, this 1 brigade, because they're in the middle of like a kind of a, Riptoa, and it's like, or no, you gotta load your equipment that was already on the boat's back.
Right. So as far as augmentation, so in this brigade's initial situation, they have Estonians on their flanks, and so they're tied in with them. And then as the situation develops, they get augmented by some British soldiers. And then as the whole conflict goes on, then you start to see way more. Then it really becomes a NATO joint task force where there's like Leopard 2A6s and Challengers and Abrams all working across a different battlefield. There's then it really becomes a multinational battle space.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, we really tried to get because that's what it would look like.
Right.
You being having spent so much time in Europe. You're probably familiar with the Operation Reforger. That was an exercise back in the day of that. So we have, for people who don't know, that was our Cold War exercise of like the Soviets are going for it. We have to hold with the forces that we have in Europe at the time. And then we have to do a massive operation of getting as many people from the continental United States to the European theater as possible. We kind of have, we call it Operation Somerville in our scenario, which is a throwback that one of the head logisticians for the U.S. Army in World War II is General Somerville. So we actually spent some time what's the deepest reference we could give this operation? And we gave it to that guy. And that's kind of our like rapidly accelerated, abbreviated version of Reforger, which goes on. But even with as big of a as big of a imitation of Operation Reforger as we could do in 2033, it's still going to be a multinational battle space. So to answer the original question, the first 2nd Brigade 1st ID is augmented by tons of different forces across the battlefield for the almost the entire duration of the book.
Gotcha.
You get the 101st and the 82nd. They got their rapid reaction battalion that's always ready to go. They get moved in really quick too.
They've also got like FSO attachments. Like there's all we just give little winks and nods to everyone who would kind of be there.
For the audience, Reforger means return of forces to Germany, and that was a scenario where the Russians were going to come crushing through this area called the Fulda Gap. The 11th ACR Black Horse Armored Cavalry Regiment was going to be like the speed bump out and around Kreuzberg, and they were going to supposedly be the delay, not the stop, the delay for the rest of us to come in and support it. So that's what Reforger stands for, Return of Forces to Germany. Was there a reason why you guys picked 118th Infantry, or was that just because it was... That was just because I know the title, the beginning of the title, it says Bravo Company 1 in the 118th, 2nd ABCT. So was there a reason?
I mean, there's no, so like we're both very familiar with pretty much every battalion. I think both of us, between the two of us, we probably interacted with every single battalion through the first ID.
Gotcha.
118, the only interaction I have with them was the two of us were in. There's another thing that goes on now in Europe called Operation Allied Spirit. It happens I don't know if it still does, but it did happen usually in the springtime. And I was with them for Allied Spirit 2019 for a while, so that kind of stuck in my memory. But we basically just had to pick a brigade combat team out of first ID. We wanted to do first ID because that's where we could hit the most like references that if anyone had been in first ID who read the book, they'd be like, hey, well, that's me. They're talking about me.
Yeah, I did that stuff. That was my
right. Yeah, exactly.
And we know the capabilities, like because kind of how you mentioned earlier, you talk about like it's fiction, so like we're not going to be fully sure or right. And there's actually a really great review we had where some guy mentioned like I thought that they'd have the XM7 rifle, which is that new, that 6.8 millimeter. It's like that new rifle that we're supposedly we're going to phase out the M4. I know the kind of the more high speed airborne units are already getting them. And he's like, yeah, like we shouldn't have had maybe First ID had it. I'm like, maybe First ID all gets the XM7.
Right.
I don't know, because we're pretty, we're I'd imagine a lot of the newer, procurement, it's expensive, or like
we were already 4 years in Iraq before we started talking about PEO, rapid fielding for soldier stuff. Anyway, so it's like, hey, you got to give it time, man. The war just started in the scenario of the book. So yeah, it would take a minute for that type of fielding to come up. That's a good question. So do you guys go through those, like you were saying, staff processes of replenishment, supply trains and all that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's several different, we don't want to bore the readers too much with this stuff, but we just give it like, they talk about maintenance, where like once it actually goes down, cannibalization in the maintenance world is such a dirty word. Where like you're just almost, in a peacetime armor, you're never going to cannibalize.
Oh my God, I know.
Yeah. Once it gets real though, like it becomes less of a dirty word, and you got to get, we got to get the pacer items back on the line here. There's always, there's talk about like fuel trucks get, like, all right, well, our capacity is down 4,500 and M969 got hit and we don't have that fuel capacity anymore. Or, the aviation units, this armor unit is staying pretty stationary here. We're not burning our fuel capacity that much and we have no plans to, but the aviation unit's working overtime. So we're gonna have to lend them some 978s or 969s. So yeah, we go through the log sinks, the supply trains, the all stuff. For people who are so familiar with the Army in the global war on terror days or the post-global war on terror days, even things like something we touch on is the concept of the Taj Mahal talk. Like in the global war on terror, the Taj Mahal talk of just this massive tent that's going to house everything. It's going to have the S1 next to the S2, the S3, S4 could be in there. And that's kind of one of the takeaways of the Ukraine war is like, and then once your enemy has fires capabilities that can match yours, like you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so we have some of the more senior staff members complain, and they're like, man, I missed the Taj Mahal talk days of like when I could just walk right next to the S2, and now I got to walk 600 meters across this AO to go talk to the S2 after that.
Yeah, that was the change when we did Iron Focus for the 1st Armor Division, when we started changing to the Azerbaijan scenario, and we like I said, the other scenarios that we discussed before, is that it actually using the DMA and the DTAC separate from having what we call the Takalok, the giant, like you were saying, the giant massive, to where we started to do those rapid setups where we had to do, okay, the DTAC had this specific amount of time to have up and comms and moved, and the D main had a specific time up with comms and move, so it was, it to me, I don't want to say I miss that kind of army, but I kind of do, because it's it kept you on your feet. It kept the collective tasks and the leader tasks. It kept that fresh in your mind of what's supposed to be set up, what drills you have to have, and also your environment where you're at. You might be setting up in an area where it may not be conducive to any type of our equipment, so you got to actually use your generators. You have to actually use our light kits. Speaking of, here's the thing that I had one question. This is my only question I have, and the rest of it is some other stuff too. For me personally, because I'm a PSYOP guy, did you guys have any information operations or PSYOP involved in this?
Yeah, on the Russians' behalf, yeah, for sure. John, I think that was kind of your. So before one of the briefs that we have what's the Russian?
Oh, yeah. So we have like their FSB had, because a lot of it, it's a lot more focused strategic. So it's not necessarily, like they're dropping leaflets, but the idea is just to flood social media with all these, confusing things of like, in the goal. And again, in the Russians, we even have them admit, like, they're like, look, we're not going to be able to make ourselves look like the good guys here. We just need people to either not care or just put just enough misinformation out there that people are going to question, like, because there's always going to be, it doesn't matter, whatever president's in power, the opposite side's going to want to make them look bad. So they're going to run with any tidbit or, information they get. So a lot of it, and like a lot of it, like the American president's perspective is a lot of his frustrations is there's just not always this national unity because, you have people, there's like this narrative going around of like, really? You're gonna spend all this money, all these lives for a country that we can't even point out on the map. You're doing all this damage, and the Russians are all too eager to exploit that.
It's happening right now, just for American support for in the fight, to support Ukraine. I just kind of look at it, I'm like, God, man, it pains me to see how much of our information operations counter propaganda. I'm like, come on, guys, let's get in the stick. I mean, we need to be. I mean, I'm sure there's some other stuff that we don't know because we're out. That's classified, but it just seems like the outer edges of the American public, it's just not there. You know what I mean? It's just not like you were saying. In the book, there's not, like you were saying, there's not the Russians are taking advantage of it. Well, hell, in real life, the Russians are taking advantage of it as well. Yeah. And it's just frustrating to see.
So we absolutely we have the Russians participate heavily in the information warfare space throughout the politics of Europe. To the I would say there's one part we have in information war on behalf of the Americans. Again, I guess we're spoilers going here.
No, spoil it. Let's spoil it. I want to read it.
Okay.
But go ahead. You could hit the wave time.
The one I would call mild bit of information warfare we have is that in the initial meeting between the Russians and this is something we tried really hard to imagine how this would go. It's like, all right, the Americans are in their fixed fighting positions here. This first, second brigade, first ID, and this Russian unit's just walking at him, kind of daring him to fire the first shot. It's kind of like a Lexington. It's a meeting at Lexington almost of like, if they mean to have a war, I guess let it begin here. Let's see what happens. And we have on loudspeakers, we have the American staff members have they just had to come up with this on the fly. There's no doctrine for how to do this. They're like, all right, we're going to broadcast it. Somehow find a way to broadcast it in Russian. Like, you are in a NATO country approaching an American unit. If you do not turn around, you will be engaged. Like, that's our one in Russian. We don't,
Right. And there's a reference. So I think when the Ukraine war started, there was this group called NAFO with an F. It was like this organic pro-Ukrainian organization. I think they had like the little Doge cartoon dogs were like. So we do have like a little bit of that where they're like, as the Russians start to take some hits, there's some of that I kind of like a little bit of taunting, like West is the best. We have all this great equipment, and there is a level of Russian society is very good at information warfare, and we're vulnerable to that. But the Russians aren't able to make the equivalent of an F-35, so we do have that dynamism. In society.
We got exactly. We got the big stick side of the house that we could flex our own information war. Well, you bring that up, Tom. It is an actual tactic where we would say in a PSYOP situation we would have tactical PSYOP teams out there that as soon as something would come out, and that's why our life expectancy isn't too much in a scenario like that. We'd be broadcasting on our loudspeakers that have at least a 10 kilometer, depending on weather and all that, distance. That we would say we would say, you're entering a country, you better turn around, or we better do this, and if they don't, then we have to back it up. We can't just make, just small threats and then not do anything. So that was just some curiosity stuff. Atlantic Resolve is an actual exercise, yes, but the book is not based on the exercise, but it is based on the scenario. Somebody asked the question, is it a real thing? So if you guys go on to, just go up to ucom.mil and you'll see, just look up the Atlantic Resolve thing and it'll go into the description of what it is.
Go talk to your local recruiter and you can go there.
Exactly. What's that meme of that guy going? Because we troll Russia a lot. As a matter of fact, U.S. Army W.T.F moments and W.T.F Nation. What was it? A year and a half ago, 2 years ago? I think it was almost 2-3 years ago. We were live and we were getting a network attack on my system, and it came just outside of Moscow. And we legit, and so finally the Russians just blocked. So we're banned in Belarus and Russia, and we still broadcast. Everyone else doesn't care. I mean, they still will play our videos or something like that. Twitter is hard for them. I mean, we've gotten a reporting status of this because I don't know if you watched the intro of the video. We posted a Defense of Ukraine video, and then we post every Monday. I post a Defense of Ukraine video and a support to one of their many charities and stuff. At the end. So It's the very beginning. So yeah, I know about the NAFO stuff. I know about the Russian because I do it online as well with my account at the IO guy on Twitter, and I'll clap back on a Russian. Anybody I've been blocked by them too.
One of the things that we did we're both off active duty now, and I'm the oldest of 5 kids. My younger brother's in the next room. He's a former 11 Bravo in the National Guard too. So we're all out of the military now. We took all of our TA-50. We mentioned that we have this friend in Ukraine that we met through playing a couple different online games.
Right.
So he's still in the territorial defense of Ukraine, and he's still part of his unit and everything like that. He's been going on and off the fly. We took all of our old TA-50. We put it in a tough box. We even took some of my dad's old TA. We took my dad's Kevlar before an ACH. So this is an 80s era Kevlar.
Yep.
We put it in a big tough box and we sent it to Ukraine. I've actually got the shirt here. They sent us back. They sent us a picture with all the TA-50 on the, just in the back of I don't know what kind of truck it was. And they sent us the T-shirt of their, I guess this is their corn group.
40. I think that's a 40K reference. There.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Corn, the blood for the blood god.
Yeah. Oh, that is so awesome.
So all of our TA-50 is over there, and I paid for a good amount of it. I had a fat bill coming out of CIF.
So wait, you just said screw it. I'm not giving it back. CIF, you can have. I'll take.
It was like a bunch of grenade pay. It was a bunch of pouches and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, I'm just. It's going to go to a good place anyway. It's all
right.
in the tough.
Right. It's going to get used. Right. Exactly.
Right.
I always tell individuals like that, don't be so. People get mad about not really mad, but they're like, hey, how come you're not? I grew up. I'm a Cold War kid. I grew up, Wolverines, Rambo, the day after, a movie, a duck and cover, so the Russian scare, the Red Scare was always, you watched it on TV shows, you watched it on every, I don't want to say it's our, the ad council had their own sort of kind of, in the event of nuclear war, just make sure you do this. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. But you kind of like blew it off. Right. But, but every time Ivan, and I will always say that every time Ivan does this, or acts up, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. It's like you guys.
It was one of the when my dad doesn't have much TA. He retired out of the Army in 1995. He was 1972 to 1995. So his Kevlar and some other old TA-50 from him that we threw in this tough box. And one of the things that he said, which is for sure true, he's like, man, how my Kevlar that he was part of Operation Reforger. He spent a lot of time in Europe as well. My Kevlar that was, I wore in Operation Reforger, all these different exercises where you're on the divided Germany, that is the Soviet line. But in that day, the Ukrainians were also on the other side of that line.
Right.
And now the Kevlar is going to go be used in Ukraine against the Russians.
Against the Russians, yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah. No, I don't think many people would have predicted it in 1983. But
could you imagine? Yeah. Oh man, I know.
No, and something also kind of with the PSYOP, what we do also is I think that the United States military in itself is kind of like if you're opposing us, would be kind of a bit of a PSYOP, because it's like there is a certain mystique. Like, yes, we fought in the counterinsurgency, but no one since really Desert Storm has really seen what we could do in theory if we were just all right, no restrictions, no rules of engagement, we're going to just, and there is that kind of fear for the Russian side of okay, what happens if they do just send their, just the ridiculous one about 35? You see a lot of footage from the Ukraine war, and it's, it's kind of grainy. You see these kind of the cheaper drones and elements, and you do sometimes when the U.S. military posts footage of what we're doing. Yes, it's an uncontested airspace, and we probably couldn't fly a fighter just over the air with impunity like we can do in Yemen, but you do just see there's a lot of precision, a lot of things that go into this, just a crystal clear HD image of just 30 guys getting smoked by some bomb that's more it costs more than the GDP of a small country. So there is that they do have that fear of okay, we crossed the border, are we just going to get hit with 70 JDAMs and all decoy emitters and all these fancy things that we've yes, we have experience fighting the Ukrainians. We've developed some very good TTPs and all of these things, but just because we fought well in that war, we're going to be kind of facing a different war and a different threat. There's going to be naval based missiles, and there's going to be planes and all of these things.
Well, I think going back to what Tom was saying too is I couldn't even imagine when I watched on video very clearly an American-made Bradley just totally fuck up a T-90. And,
Right, yeah,
and it was one of those. I mean, think about it. If you were to go back to tell somebody that was standing on the line from the 11 ACR, like you were saying, like, or your father, and you were to tell your dad, "Hey, man, there's a Bradley, Dad, that's
Right.
lighting up a T-90 that we all, everyone freaked out about T-90. Everyone thought it was, and here's a Bradley just handing it its ass, and you're like, dude, how? I mean, that's like a surreal picture to begin with. An American Bradley destroying a Russian tank that we kind of feared, and that brings up a good question. Did you think that our intel kind of like at this point, I don't want to say is humbling itself a little bit, but more so, okay, maybe we got it wrong on some of the capabilities of Russian equipment?
So certainly in the, are you saying present day, like currently that's the case, or in the book?
Well, you can say both. I mean,
yeah,
you kind of say both if you want. I mean,
but certainly in our current timeline, I think that it's the majority of the world probably overestimated the Russian military pretty heavily prior to the Ukraine conflict. What the actual, what people like yourself in the year 2020, like, a cyber operator, or people really in the know would have told you. I can't say. Certainly, I could say my friends and myself in 2019 and 2021 in UCOM 1, we never thought that there was even a remote possibility that there would be a real hot war in Europe between Russia and Ukraine or anybody. But I remember us thinking that, like, no, the Russians are legit, man. Like, they're not wasting time doing, cyber awareness. They're really doing the thing. Like, they're a real serious force. I will give credit to my battalion commander at the time. He really did think that Russia was going to invade Ukraine, and he was pretty spot on with the timeline. But for the most part, we didn't think it was possible, and we, us just not really in the know, certainly overestimated Ukraine. But it seemed like once the actual war started happening, that the U.S. intel system was pretty spot on with what the Russians were going to do and when. I mean, we were giving if I remember correctly, back in February 2022, like, the whole rest of the world was kind of calling us meaning the United States, like alarmists.
Yes. Yep.
For saying they're like, nope, they're going to do it. They really made up their mind. They're really going to do it. And then they really did it. And then even in our book, we have kind of nods to that, like, the U.S. intel system seems to have infiltrated, whatever the Russians are doing more than they've actually, I don't want to say more than they've done to us, but enough to where, like, there's definitely some predictions that can be made ahead of time before they make their decisions.
John, did you ever think that too? That are in, as far as, well, in reality right now, that you would ever see American equipment just lighting up Russia, stuff like that? Like,
no, I mean, it is pretty crazy. It's like, you just think of these battlefields and, like, it's just like we're reading about the Battle of Kursk and it's I mean, it's almost sad, right? Because, like, it's like World War I, there was a shell shortage, and that was like a big concern in 1916, and now it's like modern day, there's a shell shortage. I'm like, really like to be focused on, like, going to Mars and expanding, but instead we're back in 1916 where we're desperately hoping we can produce enough shells to it's pretty great. I think something too I always thought was kind of interesting, like how the US looked at Russia was like our posture in Europe was, so like before February 2022, before the invasion, it was there's exercise stuff, but like there wasn't really a curfew. You could kind of go out and do things. And then after 2022, like, at least, oh God, it got very strict, like, where you have to prep. And I always thought it was kind of funny because it was like, okay, we were kind of relaxed before 2022, and the expectation was the Russians would just take Ukraine in a day, and then they'd be in Berlin in 5 days. And I was like, so we're relaxed when we think they're like the ultimate threat. And then when we see them, like, staggering and, just one painful mile at a time, slogging their way through Ukraine, suddenly it's like, we got to get ready. And I understand that part of the logic is like, we also didn't believe they'd actually do it. Now it's they're not the threat that, the pure force maybe that we thought they were, but it's like, they're willing to do that. And that in itself is a very powerful thing, because, NATO, for all of our economic and military might, like, we're kind of a clumsy, we're clumsy, and like the Russians are able to act kind of as, through Putin's will, they're able to do things and move things around faster, where it's like, we're a bit more of like
I had a friend tell me that they're not, we don't know if we want to call them a near peer force, but he called them more of a nuisance peer force. Like they could do damage, but they're not as near peer as we thought they were, especially at this point, since they've been attrited so much by the Ukrainians. But yeah, and now somebody just made in the comments they're using criminals and North Koreans now.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it'd be a part of the, you know, like the would you have ever guessed in 1986? Like, you know, part of that. Would you have, you know, a Bradley and a Leopard fighting side by side against North Koreans in Kursk, Russia? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
How could you have ever imagined that? So in our timeline, though, in the book, we do have, we have the Russians spend a good amount of time. So we have an uneasy peace be declared in Ukraine and in I think the early part of 2026 in our timeline, or the later part of 2025. And then the Russians in our timeline spend a good amount of time hardening their military. You know, they use the North Koreans, the Chinese help them, and they really kind of take lessons learned, you know, revamp a bunch of equipment. So by 2033 in our story, they're much closer to a near peer. And then even the idea of like that they'd be a nuisance force is like maybe, but I don't think it would look like the Gulf War. Like I don't think it would be quite this like one-sided, absolute just beat down.
Well, I think my friend was talking about how the fact that they're not as formidable as what we thought they were, but they still had the capacity to fucking lay some damage. I mean, more like, I mean, I think I just kind of chuckled the way he said it because we're still, I mean, we're always going to be higher when it comes. We see that their armor is not as good as we thought it was going to be. Some of their advanced armor is not going to be. Their brute force EW stuff sucks. As we saw, they're the only thing that I really see more of the nuisance stuff, and I think this is what he was referencing, was the drone side of the house. Is that now the FPV drones and now the little quadcopters doing what they're doing is that I think is more we're kind of equal on.
Yeah, I think that's probably so. That's something we have to, we had to address in our book of like, how does the constant cat and mouse of EW versus drones going? So we give you one reference of an E4 perspective of they have the drone countermeasures get put on their Bradleys. And they just remembered as like, God, remember that day we had to wait in the motor pool for like 8 hours as those civilian contractors came around. It felt like NTC putting the miles gear on at NTC.
Yeah.
And you just wait there forever. And these guys would come and screw these things on. That's one of the, when the pacer items, we talk about the cannibalization of the maintenance efforts. Like that's so in our scenario here, part of what makes the pacer items are that the Bradleys and the Abrams have these EW systems on. So it's very important to keep as many of those up as possible. So you've got to, cannibalize as many of those things up because we cannot have a certain amount of those go down. Otherwise we lose our EW coverage.
No, we had that issue in Iraq with some of the counter IED stuff that was time intensive to apply and all that. So I get it. It's one of those things to where I'm like, I'm not saying that I wish I wasn't retired, but there's some times where I wish I wasn't retired just to get back on the stick on that stuff because I don't want to. I guess we're saying we're hitting different times, and in your book, reading your timeline, you are hitting those different times. You know what I mean? I mean, like I said, the summary. I mean, and little sneak peek there. I already dropped it all in the chats and posted it on all of our other social media accounts. It's some good red teaming and some good reading. I mean, like I said, this should be a building 100 item is the way I should see it.
It's a quick read too. I mean, if anyone gets the time to read it, I mean, I think it's 224 pages, and like it's meant to just be read through in like a couple days at the most. There's a lot of the classic military books like Once an Eagle or things like that. They're just these beefy like 800 page. Like that's not what this is. We kind of went with an experimental writing system here, where like. We don't give you any information that you don't need for the story to progress. Like you don't even know some of the main characters' first names. You don't know if they have families back home. It's only just Specialist Wojak is in Europe, and boy, is it cold and does it suck. And it just moves forward and just progresses with the story. There's really not much. There's very little lettuce in this.
Yeah, no, you're right because Tom Clancy writes it that way. He writes
right.
Specialist Wojak is in the motor pool. A motor pool is an area where soldiers and big vehicles are on a cantonment, specifically vehicles, and he starts going on his inventory of what's in a freaking motor pool before he gets to the topic of, oh shit, we're getting invaded.
We don't even do that. I mean, we just kind of, a lot of the times we just kind of assume like, so I think the book definitely can be read by someone who's never been in the military, and it'll make, it's like, even if you've never been in the military, you hear motor pool, you can kind of put it together, but for the most part, it really is like the target audience here is people like who are probably watching your show, like
yeah. Oh,
a little bit of background in it, and then like
exactly. Somebody said Special Swojak went to the red light district. Now, you know what? That's another thing too.
That's a big bummer for me. He never does get to go on our book.
Yeah, that actually. But in the opening scene, they kind of find out that Sergeant they thought they were going to get a nice 3-day pass,
right?
And they're like, well, guess what? The Russians are also having a little field exercise, so it's canceled. And Wojak's like, oh God, I was going to go on Tinder. I was going to try, and he doesn't get that.
And they get put on Idris status.
Yeah.
Oh
man, yeah. Oh man. Well, that's typical. You know, that's like a typical. Somebody asked, "Is U.S. Army WTF moments in the book?"
No, that would have been a good. I think we probably would have felt like we had to get permission or something like that.
Yeah, we were.
No, that's funny, you know, because we have a lot of Special Swojaks as our audience anyway, so it's like it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to see that. You know, most of the I think most of the, how do I say this? The more upper reading novels like that do discuss like that don't get into the grit. Like you starting off with Special Swojak and the interaction with the Sergeant Major to me is like that right there hits that everyone who's gone through the ranks, everyone's been a specialist if they've been enlisted or gone through green and gold. So that right there, I think that was the hook for me. I was like, oh okay. We've had beefs with Sergeant Major, so let's read it up. So, guys, thanks again for hanging out. John Pierson, Thomas Newman, Tom, dude, this is some great stuff. I've already dropped all the stuff in here in the chats. You can go on to the Amazon links that I've dropped in the comments at U.S. Army WTF Moments. And I think I dropped them all on the 2 Facebook pages and the 2 YouTube pages. And then I also shared them on Twitter as well. But again, thank you so much for coming out and shooting the breeze with us about this. Because it's a scenario that, I like you were saying, unless you've done it, unless you've been experienced it, this is a scenario. It's a pretty captivating. I mean, I think you probably don't even have to have any experience in UCOM to understand it.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I agree with that. You can. It's meant for people who, even someone who's never been in the military could probably read it through. Certainly don't have to have spent time in UCOM specifically. But hey, I really appreciate you having us on. Thanks to everybody who listened. I hope you guys enjoy the book if you get the time to read it.
Yeah, definitely. John, you got anything to say? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, thank you. We love commentary and reviews. Like our favorite reviews to get are when people like get almost challenged, like, well, what if they did have the XM7? It's like, oh, I could talk, like, I could pick apart the book for days. I'd love to, so anything like that.
What if they did have really good PSYOP guys or really good information?
What if you WTF wasn't?
Exactly.
I'm sure they come up with something on like the North Koreans or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, everyone's a critic, you know what I mean, when it comes to stuff like that anyway. So
but we could love that kind of kind of feedback of like what what would have happened. That's what we wrote it for, basically.
Right. And it's well into the times, right, into this world of 2024, 2025, 2026, and that's on fire right now. Have you guys got an audiobook done with this yet? Are you guys going to do an audiobook?
We haven't yet. It's on, it's weirdly enough, this is just, it's not super relevant to the book, but you'd be surprised. That's actually, audiobooks are actually the least, that's like 10% of an author's sales are usually audiobooks. Ebooks, people buying the book like in a digital version, that's like 70% of what authors usually, what like customers usually want. So it's possible. We probably will in the future, or certainly with the next book too.
Right. Now this is in hardcover and Kindle and paperback, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, gents, hang out for a second with me when we finish here, and that way I can shoot the breeze with you and close out. All right, so John and Tom, thanks again. Atlanta Resolve, The War for Estonia. Make sure you check out them links and jump on Amazon or download it on Kindle. But this is definitely some good reads. So y'all have a good one, and like I said, I'll see you guys in the green room. We'll be right back. We're going to take a closeout break and then shots. Stand by.
A soldier's tale of wild misdeeds, from the chow hall to the PT grind. You won't believe the things you'll find. Drill sergeant's rage, a fiery storm, private WTF you can't deny. Army top of the stories unfold. In the heart of the chaos, the truth is told. From the field to the base, the legends grow. Army double the force, the madness we know. A Humvee stuck in the mud so deep. A midnight rain, no time for sleep. Emerge straight like gold in hand. The strangest sights in this foreign land. Drill sergeants rage, a fiery storm. Private antics far from the norm. In the shadows where the secrets lie. Army WTF you can't deny. Army top of the stories unfold. In the heart of the chaos, the truth is told. From the field to the base, the legends grow. Army double the force, the madness we know. A Humvee stuck in the mud so deep. A midnight rain, no time for sleep. Emerge straight like gold in hand. The strangest sights in this foreign land. Drill sergeants rage, a fiery storm. Private antics far from the norm. In the shadows where the secrets lie. Army WTF you can't deny. Army top of the stories unfold. In the heart of the chaos, the truth is told. From the field to the base, the legends grow. Army double the force, the madness we know. In the ranks where the wild things roam. Every soldier's got a tale of their own. From the absurd to the downright strange. Army double the force, it never will change. So raise a glass to the tales untold. In the Army's world where the brave and bold live the moments that make us say Army double the force every single day.
I am here determined to stop this future atrocity.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
The voice of U.S. Army, WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Everything stated on WTF Nation Radio is to be considered the opinion of the person that stated it, and not an official representation of WTF Nation Radio or U.S. Army WTF Moments.
Price does not include tax, title, or license. Some assembly required. Each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
please enjoy the show. Shots.
We're back. Oh man, it's about time to close it up. Broadcasting live deep within the basement of the DEA headquarters. Still getting messages about that. Yes, we'll provide you guys updates when it happens. Looking forward to seeing what other drama is going to come out of this, but there will be some. It's not over from what the authorities are saying out in Colorado Springs. So I want to thank John and Tom for hanging out with us and shooting the breeze of some good talk. We were still blabbing right before I came back, and again, make sure you get their book. Check all the links that are inside all the chats and posted on our Twitter page or X page. And yeah, so I think it's about time we got some housekeeping going on. And this is the Monday edition. Myself and Massey, of course, giving you all the news, a commentary, and discussion. We've been able to talk about other events, but like I said, we got guests, and everybody wanted to talk about the big drug bust. And so, yes, we did talk. Yes, yep, we did. That was one of the topics we were going to talk about in Insomniac, but we did see the Unsubscribe podcast with Angry Cops Rich High, who's been a guest before on U.S. Army WTF. We posted that on the WTF Moments timeline. So if you scroll through, I think everybody needs to hit their notifications or something like that. Because lately everyone's been like, hey, did you guys post this? And we're like, let me see. We literally just posted this 5 minutes ago, man. So are you sure you're activating? So make sure you scroll the timeline at U.S. Army WTF Moments to see all those news. But yes, it was posted from the Unsubscribe podcast and Rich High, also known as Angry Cops. Just watch that video and wow. So shout out to the Unsubscribe guys for that. Tuesday, Pop Culture Warrior. As a matter of fact, let me check the calendar. Let me see what we got going on here. What do we have going on? I think we got a guest. I think he's got a guest on. Brian Norris. Brian Norris. Where does that name sound familiar? That name sounds familiar. Where's that? Known as Brian Norris is known for The Cleaning Lady, The Halt and Catch Fire, and New Amsterdam. So there you go. That's the Rookie, Feds, General Hospital, Minsky, 88. Pretty on pitch. Yeah, he's got a pretty very diversified portfolio on IMDb. So make sure you check him out. He plays on the CW. So he's going to be a guest tomorrow for Pop Culture Warrior, also known as CQ, Michael Carrasquillo, with his angry crew of Mad Mike and Angry Elf. And then we got the Sorens on Wednesday. They don't have a guest. TZ and Radar for the Smoke Pit. And on Thursday, I have a very unique guest on Thursday. Thursday, I have a guest that talks about Army spouses, that talks about military wives, that talks about dependas. I'm just gonna fucking come out and say it. We're gonna be talking dependas on Thursday on Sergeant's Time. Even though it's Sergeant's Time, it's still funny. But we're gonna have Jenna Lum, author, Secrets and Lies of Military Wives. Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of, I don't know. Is there gonna be some upset people? Who knows? But we're going to we're gonna spill the tea. Talk about military wives, the dependas. I'm gonna say the graphic. Okay, hang on. Let me just. I'm gonna laugh. I'll laugh my ass off. As soon as I fucking saw this graphic by our graphic artist, I was rolling. It definitely hit the Penda thing. So so Jenna Lum's gonna be my guest this week. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have another Dependa join us. I'm gonna have mom. I'm gonna have the station mom, WTF and our mom, Amy, join us because she's a Dependa. Oh man, I saw this book. Right, since we're highlighting books this week, I saw this book. I said, dude, get the hell out of here. Shut the front door. Get the hell out of here. There is no way that there is a spouse that's got a hippopotamus. We got to get this person on. So she's going to be joining us, Jenna Lum, and so I'll be surrounded. I'll be surrounded. I got 2 Dependas. I can't wait to hear the stories and hear the tea. Wondering if any of the stuff that we had to do with this. Curious, because I know there's some stuff we post. Sometimes we don't like posting the Dependa drama, because that's why they have all the spouses pages, but we're not in pages. But this, I'm looking forward to this guest coming on, Jenna Lum, on Thursday. It's going to be classic. It's going to be fun. Think about it. Look at that, man. It's going to be awesome. That's going to be for Thursday starting time. FTX, I don't know. The guy's going to have FTX this week because I think they had to skip out. So I don't know if there's going to be FTX. So we'll see. Saturday co-ops. Weekend co-ops with Nemo, the crew at Valor Gaming, or maybe sometimes it'll be Stack Up or WTF Nation Gaming. And then on Sunday is the sports bar. What do you hear? What do you say? Being the coach. And of course, the actual King Smith doing all the bets and doing all the giveaways and stuff. Man, I was going to jump in and talk about the Shedeur Sanders, the NFL draft and all the drama behind that. But I was like, nah, I'll just let him go. That I'm happy my Raiders picked who they picked, so I don't care. Hopefully this year they won't suck. Go Raiders. At any rate, make sure you share, like, and follow. We're on 5 live platforms. We're flying, blah, blah. We're flying live on 5 different platforms. 2 YouTube pages at U.S. Army WTF Moments and WTF Nation Radio. 2 Facebook pages at U.S. Army WTF Moments and WTF Nation Radio. And X at WTF Nation Radio Live. We appreciate your patronage. Thanks for hanging out. And again, thanks, John and Tom, authors of Atlanta Resolve, for hanging out with us as well. So y'all have a good night. See ya. Shots.
Hey, this is SEAC retired John Wayne Troxel. You're listening to WTF Nation Radio, the station of choice for all of the badass MFers on the planet.
The voice of U.S. Army, WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Reigns. Arbitrary orders driving us insane. ATF 0-30, no time to complain. Push up in the mud, feel the muscle strain. Army life, it's a wild ride. WTF moments can't hide. Through the fire we survive, in the ranks we thrive. It's WTF moments in the Army's grind. Through the blood and sweat we find our kind. In the chaos and the fire we stand aligned. Warriors forged in the battle's bind. Hilltops in the desert, sandstorms in our eyes. Memories for breakfast, no room for lies. Rock marches through the night under starless skies. Brothers and sisters we rise. Army life, it's a wild ride. WTF moments can't hide. Through the fire we survive. In the ranks we thrive. It's WTF moments in the Army's grind. Through the blood and sweat we find our kind. In the chaos, in the fire we stand aligned. Warriors forged in the battle's bind. Drill sergeant fury echoing in the air. Discipline and duty we all must bear. Battle bodies by our side in the fight we share. In the face of danger we dare. Army life, it's a wild ride. WTF moments can't hide. Through Through the fire we survive, in the ranks we thrive. It's WTF moments in the army's grind. Through the blood and sweat we find our kind. In the chaos and the fire we stand alive. Warriors forged in the battle's bind. Souls and firefights, adrenaline's rush. Silent nights, broken by the enemy's hush. Medics on the move in the heat of the crush. In the heart of battle we trust. It's WTF moments in the army's grind. Through the blood and sweat we find out our kind. In the chaos and the fire we stand alive. Warriors forged in the battle line. It's a wild ride. WTF moments can't hide. Through the fire we survive. In the ranks we thrive. Memories in our mind. Brothers lost but never left behind. Army WTF moments in the stories we find. In the army's embrace, we're forever entwined. It's WTF moments in the army's grind. Through the blood and sweat we find our kind. In the chaos and the fire we stand aligned. Warriors forged in the battle's bind. Through the smoke and the flames we rise again. In the heart of the storm we find our sin. Battle buddies by our side, our men. In the army's legacy we transcend.
Everything stated on WTF Nation Radio is to be considered the opinion of the person that stated it, and not an official representation of WTF Nation Radio or U.S. Army WTF Moments.
Price does not include tax, title, or license. Some assembly required. Each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
please enjoy the show. Shots.
If you haven't got problems, I feel bad for your son. I got 99 problems and a bitch ain't one.
Я батько. Я молодший брат.
Я водій маршрутки.
Я скоро одружуся. Я фанат шахтера. Начальник отдела продаж.
Я прораб.
Я программист. Я свидетель на свадьбе. Дядя Юра, таксист. Я вчитель фізкультури.
Я студент-геолог.
У мене своя фірма. Я кращий друг зі школи. Я сусід, який завжди стукає по батареї.
Я єдиний син.